to map number 1 is going to start things out on a village.
And already, I mean, there's no guarantee that they're sticking with these, but we're seeing somewhat similar approaches with slightly different executions out of both of these teams. And I think this is quite interesting. If you do recall on Thursday, I believe it was Chaos Theory who were actually going and changing back to this exact team comp when they spotted out their opponent was playing it.
Now, neither team are going to be changing anything up for the time being. They're both going to be rushing straight towards that midpoint. No one's going to start on the high ground. This is kind of the new meta of Village. Every team is going to go for this kind of Reaper setup. If you're not going for Reaper, you better bring a Junkrat.
Yeah, and I think this will be interesting seeing how the Junkrat versus the Reaper works out, because that is the defining factor of difference. Of course, the other one being
nice
Punks here. That is a very nice hook with Barrier. Oh, not quite enough to keep Zenith alive, and that's Xavier already kind of off to a good start here. Bello not quite dishing out enough damage to make up for it, but also not dead just yet. So OneShine still in this, but having to give a lot of ground. Ooh, Jenny down. Yeah, there's no more ground left to really give for them. Now they're just kind of getting routed back. Xavier on the point as well. Pretty nice start for them.
Opening damage from Xavier was so much better as well. This is kind of what the Junkrat offers that the Reaper unfortunately doesn't do. You need to already be in combat, already in the middle of a brawl, but when you're trading damage, shields are up, the Junkrat just does so much more. OneShine know it as well. Bello and Pun's already switching heroes, kind of onto a dive now as well.
And I kind of like this out of OneShine, especially Puns on the Sombra here. Once the EMP is in, what those health bars become are massive ultimate charges, right? But that actually has to get up, it has to get connected, and already Xavier, I mean, they have the tools to kind of withstand this fight. Queen already getting the opening kill here. Despite the coalescence from Goddess, oh boy, indeed. That's just a smooth and easy Junkrat 3K.
And that's the kind of transition you get when you have so much early damage as Suntag on the Junkrat. He nailed the entire OneShine squad in that very first attack, got himself a very early Riptire, converts straight into a triple kill. So now Xavier, they get 2 fight wins very early on, seemingly for free as well. Not only that, but OneShine, they did also have to change the composition, so they're still coming in fresh.
That being said, they have started to catch up, but a pick on Suntag is a pretty great way to open things out. You look at what they are soon to be rotating into. Only in this fight if it ends up being a long one, but I see it being a long one just with how much time they're taking. Puns as well, EMP available. This is the critical one, looking to get in the back line. That's a big connect, but the self-destruct was placed in there. Catches Puns and Bello, who was also not able to get out of that one. They may be able to close off on these members though, thanks to the Primal Rage. Queen just barely getting out of there alive. That is uncanny, but he is at least alive. Finally going down late in the game, but had already picked Janny in among that, and actually Xavier really holding on for a long time, but the coalescence from Goddess to close it out with the cap included.
Exactly, that early cap as well, and sort of that middle of the combat, giving them already 17%. The late kills, Bello still managing to save onto that Riptire, and now they can sort of get this momentum rolling for themselves if you're the OneShine squad on the defense. Stop Queen from coming in to get that Earth Shatter. Tay did use a sound barrier, that was countered out by the EMP. Huns, that did a lot of work.
Yeah, you need to see a big Riptire here. You need to see, like you said, those rotations coming through. That is not a good Earth Shatter, not even getting guns, and now Queen going down. It's honestly Xavier just kind of flagging the retreat base straight off that, though you will trade that 1 for 1.
You might see Queen change heroes here as well. The Earth Shatter did come down. They're sort of moving towards a possible dive, not quite yet. Suntag did manage to go into the Tracer, so they're kind of in this 50-50 midway through composition. Just kind of getting themselves through there slowly. Still got the whole hog though, that could be an effect.
Yeah, and that's why they don't want to change. They want to use those ultimates. Here's the coalescence already. Not getting too much done for Dreamer except keeping the tanks alive, but that could be all they need because there's a pick onto Bello. Sound barrier out from Janny. Not enough to save Zenith though. That's the whole hog already doing the work as Gun just getting beaten back. Goddess picked down. That's a 3K from THK. Securing the point back in favor of Xavier.
You can see those early picks that THK can get on the Roadhog as well. Securing the 6 versus 5, and then OneShine Esports, they didn't want to give up just yet. They wanted some extra percentage on that objective timer. So Janny coming in with the sound barrier. Only hit 4 members. Zenith died before he could manage to get the sound barrier. THK though, easy cleanup. Triple kill on the whole hog.
Oh, another great EMP connecting on so many, and here's the Riptire in, gets the 2,
Double's
and that
good.
could well be enough, yeah, but there are some rescue ultimates here from Xavier. A good Earth Shatter, no, not going to come out, especially when you're dead. And that should be the point going back the way of OneShine. I like the conservative play from Xavier to not use those ultimates, let the cap go over, but they do need to win this next fight.
Very difficult for OneShine to fight what was both the DP, not both the DPS, but both the supports that went down to the Riptire as well. So that is always going to make things reasonably difficult as we head into a little bit of a pause. So it is pretty back and forth gameplay so far. You do have to say it is Xavier ahead in terms of objective, but it isn't something that OneShine can't get back. They're at about the 77% mark themselves, and they've been trading evenly enough that this could very well go either way.
Yeah, the thing that I could see actually making the difference here is actually the fact that OneShine in that last fight committed the EMP and the Riptire. You will see when we get back in game, they actually don't have a lot of resources here. And unfortunately for them, Xavier just have slightly more. And that could actually be enough to make the difference, especially when you consider Xavier only need to win one more fight. However, it's kind of close enough to even ultimates with, really Xavier only having a couple more that it may not actually count for much. This may just be one of those fights that comes straight, to who frags out. And indeed, getting a pick early is going to kind of negate that single ultimate advantage that Xavier do have. So certainly their work cut out for them, but this is really within striking distance of both teams.
And that's the thing about the way these team fights have gone so far, is you'll have a lot of these opening picks that get counter-traded so quite quickly by either team. So you never have these big clean fights. Well, you have very rarely these big clean fights where one team just walks away with all the kills. One of those fights was the THK triple kill on the whole hog, but most of the other fights have been very even.
I think actually the other swing point here for Xavier is going to be the sound barrier and the coalescence that is likely to follow it. Not quite enough coming out of that self-destruct from Gun. Also used it very early. All the ultimates in from Xavier, but the Earth Shatter just not quite coming out to great effect. However, they've still picked Bello and Zenith. Zenith didn't use the Primal Rage, and Xavier are on the point as well. That's Gun demech'd and does not have the self-destruct to save his mech because he committed EMP and just no one there to follow up on it. Bello trying to rescue with this Riptire. Just trying to weave his way in here. Not going to able to... Oh! No, he just barely got it in time. I couldn't see where that was coming from. Suddenly, Zenith is in there. Primal Rage.
The whole hog
goes out, but the whole hog pushing people off means no one is getting on to contest that overtime. That is super rough. The things actually came up for OneShine, but you know what I think the difference was actually Gun using the self-destruct early rather than preserving the mech. That could have just been the extra body on the point when it countered.
And there was just so many little things there as well, and I kind of have to go back to the point that both teams are trading so evenly. When you think one team's been counted out, when you think it's all done and dusted here, Bello will come in with a triple kill. You'll have players that will just find these big sort of self-destructs, these kind of kills that just change things around quite quickly. But, that whole hog at the end of the day, being able to push members off is a big part of it, because for OneShine, if the whole hog wasn't ineffective, was hacked out or removed, or if THK died, they would have had members on the point.
Yeah, so many tiny things could have been the difference there for OneShine, but it was 195 to Xavier. Now OneShine, they want to try and even this one up and have to do it here on Sanctum.
It's going to be the pharmacy coming out of OneShine as well for Xavier Esports. They need to find a way. A good hook from THK might be able to do it, but otherwise, a lot of damage should be coming out of Bellows. Kind of slow so far, they're only 9% charge.
I kind of like the sound of OneShine as well. They're not giving Sontag too much room to get a lot of damage out, but now they are kind of out of that side room, going to be looking to get towards the point. And this is where Xavier's team pump can really shine. You already see that in the damage opening out, and it's just going to be a big old brawl on the point. But there's the hook onto Bello. No, he's able to get away. That is so crucial, and they're just keeping the harassment on the front line. Xavier sort of weathering the storm for now, but Queen might just find himself a little bit... Oh, another one! Great hook, but again, no follow-up. And with that, Xavier are just getting caught out on the ground here, unfortunately, despite the coalescence. Eventually, the barraging, the bombardment from the skies just becomes a bit too much. And with that, OneShine almost looking green across the board are going to get the point cap.
You're going to see a couple of changes here as well. Sontag onto the Tracer Queen, going to move on to the Winston. In fact, we're going to see full dive. Now, everybody on the Xavier side wants something different, except for Tay, who's going to stay onto that Lucia. But that does mean they're going to be so far behind in terms of ultimate charge. And for Bello, I don't even know if it's no follow-up from Xavier, because there was follow-up, but every time Gun, defense metrics right on the far end.
Yeah, really beautifully coordinated by OneShine. Now if they can just cycle through these ultimates, they should have no trouble. Not quite in time to block the rocket barrage on THK. Also catches Dreamer on the back end. Nice try, Olivier, but not today. And with that, there we have it. Like I said, ultimate rotations. That was only 2 out of OneShine with plenty in the bank still.
And you could even make an argument to only use one there as well. Goddess just with the insurance policy, making sure that no one was going to get killed on OneShine's side. Bello nearly went down, but nearly is not good enough for Xavier. Even coming back in now, they're not forcing any respawns out of OneShine, so the spawn hold right close to these doors will be in effect.
And I'm really loving the angle on this. Oh, Goddess, a little bit low down the edge, but the catch on Dreamer is a good one. That sound barrier does a lot of work, gets a lot of mileage, but OneShine still with the upper hand. Now the Transcendence from Janny to keep them going very safely in the fight. Olivier out, Sontag pressured out for the second time, having to use his recall. These DPSs are just not getting free reign on Xavier. That one was more expensive for OneShine, but now they're going to just rotate back in to that Rocket Barrage Valkyrie.
Oh, we'll have to see if they can do that, because the factor is, for Xavier, they have ultimates of their own now. They have abilities to sort of break through, about to hit the tactical visor. They have the primal rage. They have so much they can manage to push in with that they've never had before. The first round of ultimates on Sanctum so far for Xavier.
Yeah, and you can just see this really going either way. Maybe it's even a fight where
That's
one
a deep dive.
Ultimate's out. Oh, and it gets Dreamer. That's key. And they get some down with the Rocket Barrage gun. Just great follow-up. And a lot of time wasted by Olivier just blocking that damage out. But he gets it back with the self-destruct. Gun trading one his own way. And Punz is still in this, along with Gun and Goddess, who is able to get the res on Bello. Cat barely going over to Xavier. But I don't know how long that's really going to last for. Olivier sure to lose the mech here. Dreamer can Transcendence back into this one. In fact, he's going to have to, but he's alone on the point. Conk's not quite able to dislodge him for now, but he's not really stalling for anyone. In fact, he just has to leave immediately and goes down. And now as the point cap is going to go back the way of OneShine, Xavier are not going to have a full force team to contest this one out with, and this is looking like it will go the way of OneShine. We get that 1-1. As soon as these last few members from Xavier end up going down, not quite enough members here to fully contest, just a matter of time.
You look at the way Xavier Esports made that last engage as well. It was just a little bit messy. Couple misfires here. They sacrificed both Dreamer and Tay, their two supports into the back line. Still members want to flood in here. Still members trying to keep this overtime alive, but ultimates for OneShine will secure this, if not the kills themselves. Victory Transcendences, victory ultimates across the board. And for Xavier Esports, they had that one moment when the ultimates all came in line. They did use them, but like I said, it was the supports for Xavier. They got sacrificed on the back line, so the other members that sort of dived in couldn't get the job done. The cap barely went over, but that was short-lived.
And Gun really pulled his weight in that one as a big proponent of the dive between him and Punz, able to take out a lot of those backliners quite early, gave themselves a numerical advantage even when they were at an ultimate disadvantage. And then because of how that played out, I mean, credit to Xavier for stalling for as long as they did, but they didn't have any ultimates that they were rotating into, whereas OneShine did.
And that's part of the, the difficulty when you had to change compositions so hugely. 5 members had to change, and then on top of that, Tay did end up using that sound barrier as well, but it's going to be pretty much a mirror composition coming into Shrine.
Yeah, and I think the interesting thing here will be that double Sombra, because we have seen Punz go to great effect, but this time around, Zenith the first casualty, and Bello as well going down. Now THK and Co can just get aggressive. Yeah, this is an impenetrable wall that OneShine are not getting past. Cap will go the way of Xavier.
And this time, even without a Roadhog, Xavier Esports just much better in these sort of Reinhardt standoffs. They're able to find these picks mostly onto Zenith as well. With Bello down as well, that's most of your damage gone. Look for the ultimate charges starting to come through, though. Queen's already nearly up there.
Punz is doing a great job of charging this EMP, by the way. He's generally been leading Sontag, was at one point leading him by about 20%. We should see him coming up just before Sontag. If they can take advantage of that timing window, they could get
Zenith
a fight.
again.
But yeah, Zenith going down means that may just not be a possibility. Sontag as well, not actually getting much charge there, but still working towards it. No trade backs for OneShine, though. They just kind of have to take that fight on the chin.
And now this is going to be very different from what we saw into Village, right? Because on Village, there was a lot of trades, camping the translocator. Now, if this is going to be a kill as well, that'd be pretty huge. But Punz not going to take the bait. What he is going to be able to take is this EMP coming up. And for OneShine, they need every tool they can get, because they are behind on ultimates, but they are ahead on EMP.
If they can win this fight off the EMP alone, they can actually get into some good ultimate rotations once they're in control of the point. But it has to land. They have to follow up. That's a big land. Plus the Coalescence. They are right in on top of Queen, who is not able to throw down an Earth Shatter. But these ultimates coming up. THK, Death Blossom, Sound Barrier as well to keep him alive. He nearly went down, but keeping that Reaper alive has saved the fight for Xavier. And off the back of that, that's a gong.
Xavier committed ultimates there as well. I mean, for Sontag, they ended up having that EMP themselves. I mean, they managed to get themselves back in there. So for all that OneShine did, it just wasn't quite there.
Bello now over onto the Doomfist. This is an interesting one. I think they're valuing the mobility or perhaps an amount of pick potential, but at any rate, just going to have to get into the thick of it. Earthshatter could be a real spanner in the works. Gun pressured out, throws it grab, but there's no one to follow up. They're all lying on their backs. They do get Zenith in that Earthshatter, but they're finally getting a few in here. OneShine, Bello starting to go to work. The Doomfist actually paying off so far. Look at how much damage he's dishing out. Look at how much ult charge already, but also getting pressured out in his own right. THK doing a similar amount of work, looking to drill down Bello, but no, Bello, he's got the damage in, finally going down to the back end of that one, but it looks like OneShine may just have the presence on the point with the re-entry here of Zenith, the tank front line back in the fray, and that is going to be the cap just barely getting over the way of OneShine.
And Dreamer's going to make his way out of there as well if he can. If not, then this is going to be a very late death that's going to sort of slow things down, and OneShine need every small advantage they can get. I want to comment on Bello's Doomfist here because that was a nice adaptation coming from him. The Reaper wasn't really working out. He couldn't get past Queen. What's another way to get past Queen? Well, if you go to the Doomfist, you rocket punch the Reinhardt out of the way, that's your opening, and he managed to find kills with it. And that's what's so important.
Yeah, this is the first Doomfist I think I've seen in weeks that has not just been a rescue Doomfist, a last-ditch thing. EMP here from Pun's going to have to pull a lot of weight.
Still kind of last ditch though. It was 99% overtime, but so far it's been pretty effective. Pun's been done, EMP.
That is about as bad as it can go. Bello not quite trading that one back onto Queen. Sound barrier out. Big Earthshatter. Bello's got his work cut out for him. In fact, the entirety of OneShine
Meteor Strike.
But they're having a hard time. Yeah, Meteor Strike probably not going to do it. And got us going down despite that Coalescence really just too isolated from the team. Cap going back the way of Xavier. And Pun's the last man standing here. Bello as well just getting run around, pushed away. Xavier securing the 2-1.
A cleaner macro play on Shrine, just too much for OneShine, who spent most of that game trying to catch up. They had that one early EMP, couldn't get enough mileage off it, and then just, they had to change things up. Bello, again, nice adaptation onto the Doomfist, but after that first fight, they couldn't come back and repeat the success. Dying with the EMP Puns did, that's a bit of a nail in the coffin for OneShine.
And that was so unfortunate. I mean, when he was getting them off proactively, Pun's EMPs were really spot on.
I think he got hacked, actually, because Sunset killed him.
Exactly, it was exactly that. And that's the thing, actually, you do have to credit Xavier for starting to read that, for recognizing how Pun's was getting into a lot of those fights, landing those EMPs, identifying him as a priority target, and shutting him down thusly.
So Xavier as well, like we talk about adaptations on the OneShine side, but I think for the Xavier side, you definitely see the adaptation, and it was just a little bit too slow on, say, Sanctum when 5 members had to change. It was the only fight they could afford to change it, but the damage was done. Look, the momentum had shifted so heavily on Xavier's side, then they got that really cheap 2 ultimate fight win on that second fight as well. It just gave them too much of a lead for Xavier to overcome. But then go on to the other maps, like on Shrine, like on Village, when they're the ones getting the good start, they get the opening fight, which they did on both those maps. They just run right past OneShine, and OneShine cannot catch up.
And I mean, you can almost say the same on the side of OneShine for Sanctum. It was kind of a similar situation. They just ended up having the right rotations at the right time. And you've got to look at that whole Nepal there, because we've got to go back to that first map, and the way that one ended was like, it was a real game of inches situation. So many tiny little bits here and there. If things had gone slightly differently, it could have been a OneShine win, but because things went slightly the way they did, it was a Xavier win. So you've got to say, look, Xavier happy to have got that one on the board, but that wasn't comfortable even when it was comfortable on that last map.
And that's the issue, right? Because I feel like OneShine have kind of been, even against Blank, they've been in a sort of scenario where it's looked kind of good, but then they couldn't close out that game against Blank. And off one map so far, it does kind of look like that. I do want to give them the benefit of the doubt and say, look, 3 more maps to go. They should be able to fire back in there. Look, we could see a series where we do go to 5 maps. It's definitely possible. I mean, when OneShine are really going for it, when they really have some advantages to play with, they look pretty good. But for Xavier, cleaner all around, and that's kind of the way we've described them when we last saw them. They just look like for the most part, a very clean playing team.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It is those tiny little bits. It's those few percentage differences that are actually really adding up here for Xavier. It's exactly what added up in their first series that they played as well, where it was only a 3-2 win. But certainly that was also one of those ones where it wasn't too far from being maybe a 2-3 with them taking away a loss. It also wasn't too far from them having a 4-0. So you want to see them tidy a few more things up to that end, but so far they are looking like a team that is leading.
Let's take a look at that next map, though. It's going to be Hollywood of OneShine's choice. And Xavier so far, like you said, they're leading And we'll have to see what OneShine want to be able to pull here. So we've seen a lot of Sombras and a lot of Junkrats. That's, I would say, pretty standard. One thing that Xavier did consistently do better than OneShine was in the Reinhardt versus Reinhardt department. Zenith was picked out a decent amount of times in the very opening fights, whereas Queen just kind of, he was able to hold his own, and he was able to hold his own and well enough that Bello felt like the Reaper wasn't going to do it for him. He needed something to punch through the shield, and that worked one time, but I don't know if it's going to work more than that, because Xavier, they were able to look at it. So coming into a map like Hollywood, where I feel like the macro needs to be just a bit tighter on both ends, but certainly Xavier ahead on that side, this could be a Xavier favored map.
Yeah. I'm certainly feeling an extent of that. And I think actually you touch on something interesting there, sort of between Queen and Zenith, actually, because if we want to talk about the sort of those few places of real cleanliness, we are seeing Queen, just even on the Winston, you know, in general is getting a little bit more mileage than Zenith. I mean, even down to the Earth Shatters, look, they were a bit hit and miss, but I certainly didn't see Zenith really connecting any at all. Whereas there were some times where Queen was connecting some quite significant ones, especially a very, very big one where there was able to be no follow-up on what was otherwise a well-placed Graviton Surge. You know, getting a couple of good ones is better than getting none at all. It is hard to land really good Earth Shatters these days, but I expect to see that continue here between these two main tank players. But for now, not looking like they're going to be playing the same lineups, not going to have that same mirror between those main tanks. So Xavier on the defense first. OneShine looking for that death ball.
And Xavier, this is the kind of composition that I feel like they've been most comfortable on. It is the THK Soldier, Suntag onto the Sombra as well. The other variation we've seen is when Azalea, which is their substitute, comes in, he might pick up either the Tracer or the Soldier, and then they swap between THK. So the Soldier is very integral to most of Xavier's team comps, bar a couple of the ones we just saw on the poll where the Junkrat did come out. But when the Junkrat gets put away, when the Reaper gets put away, this is their bread and butter.
I'm excited about this defense as well, in general. And you've already sort of picked the comparison to Flash Wolves. And I kind of want to jump on the back of that as well to kind of bring up that Soldier here, because we are seeing a similar situation. And when THK is able to just sort of sit pretty and do the work, he gets a lot of work done.
And Suntag's been a nice DPS partner for him as well, working much like a Tracer would in this composition, but as the Sombra, so the EMP just coming in with the extra utility. Look at the damage opening straight away into the gates.
And that is exactly what they were after. Pick on Bello, hack on Puns so that he cannot heal, and now they can just follow up, drill him down. Dreamer doesn't have line of sight. Okay, finally able to get it to his tanks, but they stayed alive, so it doesn't really matter. OneShine just have to lick their wounds for now.
And look at that, 56% for THK, Suntag overtaken. They're competing for ult charge at this rate. Puns very quickly going to be changing onto the Tracer, so for OneShine, might just retool slightly. Bello definitely feeling himself in the Doomfist. Look, it was a pretty decent one on Shrine, but can he make it work here? I'm a little bit unsure.
Yeah, already just, like you said, the compositional change-ups are really going to hurt OneShine here potentially, unless they get an opening in this fight before those ults come in rotation for Xavier. And already the dive in deep, but they're just not getting the close out. In fact, Zenith goes down too far forward. Yeah, good disengage indeed, and they've preserved those members. Tay finally dropping, but Bello hacked. That is a death sentence for the Doomfist. The Coalescence going overtime to keep him alive, but it does at least pay off for now. He stays in the fight, but it's not looking like a solid fight just yet for OneShine. All the ultimates coming in now for Xavier, waiting to commit that tactical visor. Already picking Goddess, Sontag still doing the damage. Oh, good catch by Bello, and with that, OneShine may actually be able to close this one out. Gun getting THK as well, who could not get a tactical visor in. That wasn't looking easy, but OneShine coming out the top.
And there's a couple of small things, actually. It's not quite over just yet. We're just looking for a little bit of a stall, even. I don't know if it's a stall or if it's a full commit. THK should be following up the tactical visor here.
They've got the things they need for a gun with the self-destruct. Doesn't quite kill Queen. Here's the tac visor, but the sound barrier from OneShine sort of countering it. Queen a little low. If he goes down, I think Xavier do just have to accept that this is a bit of a lost cause. Yeah, indeed, Sontag and THK both now, with Zenith being the only trade back. They are holding good position, though. The tanks are still in this between Queen and Olivier. They just haven't quite died yet. Finally losing Queen, but they may have actually done enough damage here.
We'll have to see about that, because the Coalescence does come in from OneShine, as does the Self-Destruct and Meteor Strike for that matter. So for all that Xavier threw into this fight, OneShine kind of pulling it back in equal measure. Do get the cap on through, already had the 2/3 from earlier on. So The result of this, I guess, is a slightly later cap for OneShine. Both teams completely bleeding out ultimates for the most part anyway. I give Xavier just a little bit of an edge onto that one. That could have been a disastrous retake for them, but it ended up working pretty well despite not fully completing that hole.
That was a really tricky one. You can respect Xavier's commit there, but now you've got to think, you know, look at the position they're able to take. Imagine this with a Tactical Visor. Imagine this with a Primal Rage. They need to get some presence on the cart here. They don't have as many entry tools this time around.
I guess the same could be said about OneShine, though. They don't really have those same tools, as we had a couple player changes as well, forcing the fights on top of the roof. Note no one is pushing the cart, so while this is happening, Xavier, they're definitely gaining a lot, and the cart is now finally being touched.
Yeah, sort of Queen went in, Love Tap had to back out, but now going big with that ultimate on him. The nano boost paying dividends. Quick, smart. OneShine maybe regretting that dive, actually. They recognized that they needed to make more space if they wanted to keep the cart moving, but unfortunately Xavier were ready.
And this time the EMP works for Suntag as well, because the last time that we did see on A, the EMP came down. It looked like a pretty good one. Bello, in fact, on the Doomfist, he got hacked, didn't die, got EMP, didn't die, and that's a lot of how OneShine stayed in the fight. But when Xavier managed to land their targets, managed to land their shots, it looks pretty good. Rotating into the Tactical Visor now with the high ground control. So you said earlier, what does the high ground control look like with a Tactical Visor? Well, could look pretty good.
OneShine as well, though, they are soon to be coming into that Dragon Blade. Xavier maybe need to take the fight before that can happen. In fact, you see them committing to it already. They do
double.
Get the 2. That is exactly what they were after. Puns as well, only getting Dreamer before getting taken out by Tay. So now he's going to be able to get that presence on the cart again to stop it up. Bello, good trade back. But Xavier have enough control of it that THK will be able to rejoin them before OneShine can go for another round.
And Xavier should be able to reset up that high ground control as well. Now you're sort of seeing this ultimate rotation come into effect, where the Visor was used to win one fight rather. Suntag's EMP, the fight before that one, and now Suntag, he should be able to get another EMP ready to go for this coming fight. And it's going to stop Janny from using a good sound barrier. So Janny's got to really look out for this. He's going to make sure he's not included into this EMP.
Yeah, that's going to be really crucial. Gun, though, already getting pressured down means he's going to have to commit it. Now, it's actually a little bit earlier than the EMP. Great sleep on Bello, shuts him right down. They do trade one back, but OneShine looking very lean here, and that EMP did connect. Now where's the follow-up for Xavier? Not quite coming through, at least not yet. Queen trying to go big. Nano Boost can be a factor to get the close-out damage. Pun still trying to do what work he can. They're just trying to pressure out these tanks. Gunner and Zenith barely staying alive through all of this.
They need a transfer.
Yeah, and they're just sort of balancing between these two tanks on the payload, but now with the Nano Visor can start forcing OneShine back, getting Janny, getting Zenith as well. A little bit more progress for OneShine, but not a lot for how long that took and how many resources it took.
And the collapse from Xavier was really well placed as well. They didn't clean up everybody, so now OneShine actually able to get these counter trades. So for the collapse, it was good by the tanks. The tanks on the side of OneShine and Bello themselves as the Genji, able to punish those said same tanks with the res as well. They got a lot of players now.
Yeah, that's a good catch, and with the res on Puns, OneShine should be able to exert plenty of pressure with all the members of this dive still alive and ready to go. Yeah, decent sleep, but it is just a moment of reprieve for Xavier, who now have to go diving back in to keep this contested. They want to stop it up altogether, but not quite going to happen. Queen just barely getting topped off, but there's the Dragon Blade out from Bello, who's looking to kind of seal this one for OneShine, and indeed that will be the case. May go down here with that hack on him, indeed he will, but no, not quick enough. Sontag, the reload, and then the heal in from Goddess.
That being said, though, the fact that Xavier managed to get the Dragon Blade out is very important, because we got to go back to ultimate rotation. Look at what Xavier have now. They were probably going to lose that B cap anyway, so the fact that they got extra ultimates while losing that B cap, now coming into their own ultimates, this should be a very solid C defense.
Should being the operative word there, because a few good catches here and there, another good set of proactive plays out of Puns could completely change the story of that, but it would be a pretty tall ask just with the sheer number of resources Xavier have already committing the self-destruct in. Maybe a little bit too aggressive, but pays off. Puns dead. Now they commit in with Queen and the Nano Boost on him, finding Janny as OneShine attempts to pull back, drilling down Goddess as well. Not quite, there we go, getting cleaned out right as they were about to make it into base. Also, the self-destruct out of gun thrown into that.
And look at the rest of the ultimates. We still have a tactical visor there. We still have the EMP, and that could have been either of those ultimates to win the fight. The fact it was only just a Nano Boost on Queen that forced OneShine back. By the way, Pun's now onto a McCree. 30 about seconds remaining, and Xavier haven't bled out all their resources yet. The card is nowhere near the finish.
That's a pretty nice catch onto Sontag, though. EMP off the board, at least for now, but it will be a factor later. OneShine needs to get a real slam dunk before that comes in. It's going to be a tough ask, trying to get the progress for now. Xavier know they can just wait for the respawns.
You're really looking for Bello with the Dragon Blade as well. That and the Janny's Transcendence could be pretty big.
The Tactical Visor as well committed, but not getting the closeout. Finally getting Janny, who didn't Transcendence in that, and Bello as well, who didn't Dragon Blade. The members with the ultimates going down, Raise on Janny, and then he pulls out the Transcendence too late to save Zenith, unfortunately. And yeah, this is just not going the way of OneShine, not able to use the tools they had right up at the end there. And Xavier, by the way, with more tools anyway, self-destruct, only getting a few consolation prize kills because that is the furthest the payload will go.
And that's the difference, right? Because you have the EMP from Sontag coming out of the opportune time, stopping the ultimates that OneShine had banked up, ready to use. We had mentioned, look, Bello needed a good Dragon Blade. None of that really matters when all your members are getting caught in this big EMP, followed up by a Tactical Visor as well. It was all of these ultimates after losing B that they had banked up, part of which the plan was to bait out extra ultimates from OneShine, which they got. Then they came into about 4 or 5 ultimates their own. They never really ran out of that.
That was a little rough on the whole for OneShine, actually. They never quite got momentum fully on their side, but they got a considerable amount of distance for a team that never really had momentum on their side. And I mean, that was a factor right from the start as well. The first push was failed on point A. The second one was successful, but it took so long because of the recommit from Xavier. You have to credit OneShine for still coming out the top of that fight, but even so, just constantly losing time on the clock, and Xavier on the defense. You know, it is those 2 minutes maybe on that point A fight that ended up making the difference at the end there. So you've got to credit their defense.
Well, it's that 1 minute 30 remaining on C that wasn't quite enough. Oftentimes, 1 minute 30 is definitely not enough to take C, which is usually the toughest point of any map on these respective game modes. So for OneShine, because A was such a difficult point for them, like you said, that definitely pushed them over the edge. And Xavier also got to contribute their macro play, like understanding and being able to force out additional ultimates. The fact that Xavier even came back onto A, that small little recontest that just got extra ultimates out of OneShine, bought them extra time as well. All these small things that Xavier are doing are actually adding up towards the end.
And I think no moment typifies that more than Queen going right up to spawn with the Nano Boost on. Gun threw out a self-destruct just to try and cover the retreat. You know, it's those sort of moments where you're just bleeding those extra ultimates out without losing anything of your own. Now we get to see that in action on the offense.
It's going to be the Sombra Tracer dive on both sides as well, so we're definitely favoring this exact mirror composition. Look at the speed of Xavier. That's going to be the most important thing. How fast, or rather how slow, they're going to take to do this, as both Sombra is looking for that ult charge. And so far, Goddess coming out ahead.
Yeah, key difference here, funnily enough, is Bello, who is normally on the DPS, is actually on the Lucio, so that Goddess can be on this Sombra. And already, almost tripling Sontag's ult charge, but here's the dive from Xavier, could completely change it up. Janny down, Goddess dead as well before the EMP could become a factor. They trade a few back though as Puns and Bello start going to work. Amazing that I say that, because Bello is on that Lucio, but just off the back of those two, it does end up being a bit of a rout of Xavier.
It looks so good for Xavier to start things off with. Olivier got himself 3 kills. OneShine, though, they were trading exactly that, and even then some. The fact that they killed Goddess was a pretty good start, a very big start. Sontag should have had a decent amount of advantage there. The rest of the dive just couldn't really connect on the target, so OneShine rebuffed everyone on Xavier Esports. Not only that, but Goddess has kind of come into this next fight with nearly 100% charge, and you'd expect him to have the EMP for sure.
Expect, though, is one word, right? Because Goddess did also die quite early in that last fight, so that is kind of the window for Xavier. If they can find a way to pick Goddess again, if they can maybe catch him out in the restaurant, like they did on their last push. So far, just posturing.
Because here it is.
Yep, Pulse Bomb goes wide. Yeah,
gonna be.
Goddess not committing, and he goes down. That's exactly what Xavier needs, their window. Gun, though, trying to do the work to trade some back, and OneShine do have a lot of ultimates at their disposal. Gun with the self-destruct. Does find Sontag, so no EMP out of Xavier once again, just thanks to that. Self-destruct now out of Olivier, needs to catch some real members here. Zenith had to pull back though, now able to recommit, but that has given them just a little bit of time on the point to get set up, get ready for it, and now the EMP from Goddess, but no one really to follow it up, and he goes straight down once again. Xavier just getting the exact picks they needed in the exact right timings.
Now you got to sort of question OneShine's decision making there, because it did look like Goddess on the initial translocate was going to use it, fight not quite over just yet. This one's a little bit
That's odd.
rough for OneShine.
Yeah.
It's kind of like what Xavier did on their own defense, except for Xavier, it was a much more consolidated kind of final contest.
I mean, they had 6 members and also
this one was just kind of OneShine coming in like, well, here's some members, ultimate that does nothing, not enough members to even try and make things happen. Pun's already taken a shot from THK.
And they'd already swapped onto the Widowmaker, by the way. I mean, the fight was over when Goddess died. I'm not sure, like, they'd already started making swaps for the point B defense. I'm not sure why they committed there, but with Pun's getting the headshot, they can actually stop up this cart a little bit. So maybe not all doom and gloom here for OneShine.
Still looking for the commit from Xavier. Sontag is so low, so he needs some HP, and then the EMP should look to come out. Huns, that's a big kill, because now they don't have the infra sight to try and counter this one out.
And Sontag is right in with the EMP that completely lands. Puns does get res, but maybe you're going to start wishing you had that for later on down the line. In fact, it's not going to matter if Goddess is dead. Puns does try to deal some back, but it's just not happening here. OneShine, too few members. The tank's drilled out of this one, and the payload's still, of course, moving, given that the fight happens so far away from it.
Xavier is just able to find these openings so cleanly as well. Tay, nice sort of volley from the Zenyatta. They're looking even for another one as he gets himself up to nearly that Transcendence. Double support ultimates. You'd think that should be enough to break on through for this B. Bello not even on Dragonblade yet, but he's close.
And here's the commit now. The final commit really from OneShine. Zenith not quite able to get the Primal Rage in time, and all those tools there. There's the Transcendence from Tate to try and counter out the Dragonblade. Did still connect on Dreamer, but I don't think that's going to be enough here for OneShine once again, as they just continue losing their members. The tank ultimates are a factor here, but Zenith, you have to remember, it's only just rejoining the fight. Gun getting nothing with the self-destruct. It's really just time that was bought, and yeah, you don't want to see Zenith going in for this, but it is going to. That just feeds ult charge in and doesn't really buy much more time.
Unfortunately not, because he was, if it was that Primal Rage into more members coming through from OneShine looking for additional picks. Late deaths now coming into effect from those late respawners, so you'd almost want to lose that B camp faster if you're OneShine, because they had this little stall with the Primal Rage. I mean, that meant Janny had to spawn directly into Xavier on the closer respawn, costing him another death. So for Xavier, they got more than double the amount of time that OneShine had on this point.
Yeah, once again, like it was on point A, OneShine looked like they had already decided to back off when the last couple of members then went in, just not quite looking clean and coordinated in that regard. And so far, it's cost them that exact amount of time that, like you said, is now almost double what they had coming into their own point C offense.
Xavier were just a little bit reserved there, just kind of respecting that Valkyrie as it came into effect. Bad translocate, I mean, Sontag not going to be EMPing off that one just yet. Might still find one though, there it is.
Yeah, able to get it in anyway. Doesn't quite catch Janny, who does have the Transcendence out, but Goddess still going down in it. And Tay's own Transcendence keeps Xavier well and truly cushy throughout that. Bello doing what he can, may actually be able to get a Dragonblade in this fight, but won't really have anyone tanking on the front line. In fact, still getting pressured out, hasn't joined it, and can't really back off too far, because if this payload's distance right up towards the cap, they may not have time to even get in, throwing it at the now, but yeah, not happening thanks to that hack. That is a much cleaner one for Xavier.
Even at the end there, just the few tools coming online for OneShine being picked apart by Xavier Esports, and that sort of middle section, the A transition into B transition to C, that's what really cost OneShine at the end of the day. That sort of last minute contest that OneShine wanted to do that was ultimately extremely fruitless. And then on top of that, you had a Zenith trying to commit this Primal Rage to contest B again, so kind of almost repeating these mistakes. Again, just extremely fruitless. And you got to think, okay, what's the difference between that and what Xavier did? Well, first of all, Xavier's one was so much more consolidated. They actually forced resources out of OneShine as the attackers, and that's the kind of difference, because on the OneShine side of things, when they tried to contest, they just threw bodies, they used ultimates, and Xavier said, fine, we'll take them.
Yeah, and it's identifying win conditions as well, right? Because also when Xavier did it, they had 6 whole members alive. It was, you know, a full 6v6 with some ultimates in the pocket, you know, about the same, if a little less, than what OneShine had on the defense, or I mean, the defense on the payload at that particular moment. Like, it was actually not just, you know, a fight where they could, you know, at least stall for time and draw out resources. It was also a winnable fight. And again, you know, you compare that to what OneShine did, where it's just kind of throwing bodies at the cart. But then to do that twice, this is where we're starting to see the difference between these two teams. And you've got to consider, you know, this is where that lack of cleanliness in play, and even in some of the decision making, but of the cohesion of this team, it's just not quite on the level of Xavier right now.
Which is why you see the result being, first of all, a win for Xavier, but second of all, even how they got that win, the fact they walk into C with double the amount of time, more than double the fact that OneShine had going to C. That's more than enough. And then even following from that, it's just clean all the way around. But that's map 2 done and dusted. Still 2 more maps to go into the series. When we come back, it's OneShine Esports versus Xavier Esports.